see the front lawn area?
Yes, I did.
How did you, what did you note about the front lawn area?
Well, I was looking at the area where Mr. O'Keefe's body was found, because we know once he came back and slammed his head, he's not going to get up and move around.
So, yes, I'm going to strike the second part of that. Just answer the question specifically.
Okay, I'll try, Your Honor. Thank you.
Why were you interested in the outside area where his body was found?
Because then I could identify an object possibly there that would have caused the injury on the back of his head.
Did you see any such object in any of the photos that you reviewed?
No, there was nothing there. It was a flat grass surface.
Would the flat grass, let's assume that the grass was very cold and very hard, the dirt was very cold and very hard. Would falling backward onto that dirt, hard or not, would that cause the patterned injury that you see, that we just saw in Exhibit 160?
No.
Why do you say that?
Because if you fall back on a flat surface, you get many times the tear you get in the scalp can be more like a star, because you've just hit one part and then the tears go in kind of a star pattern. And also because you would not have those discrete vertical scraping of the skin. You would tend to, if you fell back on grass, you would tend to see, you might see grass in the wound, or you would tend to see an irregular kind of crisscross pattern of the flattened grass. And that's not what we have here on Mr. O'Keefe.
Do you have any training or experience in diagnosing hypothermia in individuals?
Oh, yes.
Have you conducted autopsies of individuals who have suffered from or died from hypothermia?
Yes, many.
How many?
Oh, 100 or more, and then I've supervised my assistants who've also diagnosed the same death from decrease in body temperature.
Have you ever engaged in any death investigation, aside from the actual autopsies, death investigations in which the cause of death was deemed to be hypothermia?
Yes.
How many times would you say you've undertaken that type of investigation?
At least 100.
Have you ever reviewed any peer-reviewed medical literature associated with or discussing hypothermia and something known as Wishnooki spots?
Yes, that's in the medical literature and also in our forensic textbooks.
Did you review the medical examiner's file, Dr. Scortibello's file, as it related to, well, in connection with this case, you reviewed the entire file, correct?
I did.
Did you conduct a differential diagnosis as it relates to the potential for hypothermia?
Yes, I did.
Describe, before we get into your findings or your conclusions and opinions, what is inferential thinking?
Inferential thinking is another name for making a differential diagnosis. In other words, seeing a finding and then saying, how many ways can I get that finding? And then go and investigate each one of those ways and either rule them in or rule them out as being responsible to causing that finding.
Did you note whether or not the medical examiner, Dr. Scortibello, mentioned hypothermia as a potential cause of death in this case?
She did put that on the death certificate. Along
with something else?
Along with the blunt force head injury.
Do you agree with or concur with the blunt force head injury as a cause of death?
Yes, Mr. O'Keefe died from the blunt force head injury.
Do you concur with the diagnosis of hypothermia?
No, the body did not have any hypothermia.
What led you to that conclusion?
Mm-hmm. Well, when you have we know that normal body temperature is around 98, and we know that then at the hospital that Mr. O'Keefe's rectal temperature was around 80. So we know that his temperature went down. So there are two ways the body temperature can get down. It can get down while you're alive, or a dead body also cools when it's in a cold environment. So those are the two things you have to look at.
I'd like you to take a look. I'm
Show
sorry,
Mr.
Mayor
Wellington.
Coach.
Yeah, show Mr. Wellington.
Thank you, I apologize.
Yes.
Do you recognize what's depicted in that photograph?
Yes, I do.
What is that?
This is a photograph I took from our forensic medical literature, and it shows the lining of the stomach. So the stomach is opened up, and we look at the lining of the stomach, and it shows a characteristic pattern of small ulcerations throughout the stomach, which are called medically Wishnooki's ulcers, and that allows a forensic pathologist to diagnose death from being exposed to a cold environment or death due to hypothermia. And they're caused by, as the body gets colder and colder when it's alive, the small blood vessels in the lining of the stomach, they start to break, and then they're in the acidic environment of the stomach, and you get tiny little ulcers, which then look like small dots. And that is how at postmortem examination or autopsy, it's one of the findings I look for to see if a person died from hypothermia.
Doctor, what is gastric mucosa as it relates to the stomach lining?
The gastric mucosa, when you open up the stomach and you look at the inside, the first cells lining that inside is called the mucosa.
Is that what we're looking at in this photograph or no?
Yes, we're looking at the mucosa with ulcerations, which are little craters that form in it due to hypothermia.
Is that exemplar of what Wishnooki spots looks like as it relates to hypothermia from a book that is, or literature that is peer-reviewed?
Oh, yes.
Is it widely accepted in the medical field?
Yes, it is.
And is it referenced by forensic pathologists and used in teaching?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would move for the admission of that photograph.
Okay.
Okay, while they're pausing there to get the exhibit in, we're going to hit a break. Thank you for being with us on this Tuesday morning. We'll be right back.
Daybell, doomsday cult mom, convicted killer, and now defendant, and yet another high-profile trial.
Will this be the final chapter in the saga
of the doomsday cult mom?
The Lori Daybell conspiracy trial, today on Court TV.
Friday night, the WNBA is on Ion. The Sky take on the Dream in the air.
She's starting to cook.
Then the Wings fly out west to battle the Aces.
Vintage Chelsea Gray.
Coverage begins Friday night at 7. Find Ion wherever you watch. Ion, it's on.
I'm Matt Johnson in Dedham, Massachusetts, covering the Karen Read murder retrial. This is Court TV, your front row seat to justice.
Trial is winding down. We're in the defense case. Dr. Elizabeth Laposata, a forensic pathologist, is called by the defense, and she's saying that John O'Keefe did not die from hypothermia. Let's go back in.
Is this a fair representation of what you were just looking at?
Yes.
Describe what we're looking at.
Okay, so this, I took this photograph from our forensic medical literature, and this was from a person who died due to exposure to a cold environment. And this is the stomach has been opened, and we're looking at the inside of the stomach. And the normal appearance is kind of pinky white. That's how it should look like. And what's abnormal here is all these black dots, which are the Wishnooki's ulcers, which are diagnostic of death due to exposure to the cold. So these areas are little tiny craters, and they fill up with blood. And we see that in over 90% of the cases of people who die from exposure to the cold.
Doctor, did you also look at Mr. O'Keefe's stomach lining?
Yes, I did.
If we could have, with the court's permission, Exhibit 164 put up as well.
Okay.
Do you see the photograph on the right?
Yes.
What is that of?
This is the Mr. O'Keefe's stomach, which has been opened up when we're looking at the inside. We see that the mucosa is a little bit red, and there's a little bit of increased blood flow here, and this is the normal pattern of the inside of the stomach. It's kind of ridged, that's called rugae. That's the normal folds inside the stomach. But there's no ulcerations here. So the diagnosis of death due to hypothermia is not appropriate in his case.
Did you see, or do you see, any classic Wishnooki spots in Mr. O'Keefe's stomach lining or gastric mucosa?
No, no.
Do you observe any ulcers specific to Mr. O'Keefe's stomach lining?
No, there are no ulcers. It's a normal appearance of what we would call a gross specimen. When you open the stomach at autopsy, you can see some redness of the normal lining of the stomach.
Did you, let me ask this first. Do you have an opinion as to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty based on the totality of your review and examination of the autopsy and its associated file, an opinion as to whether or not Mr. O'Keefe died of hypothermia or complications related to hypothermia?
I do have an opinion.
And what is that opinion?
He did not die of hypothermia.
And is that opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty?
Yes.
Taking a look at the darker red areas in the stomach lining of Mr. O'Keefe on the photograph to the right.
Yes.
That's Exhibit 164. Can you describe what those are? What are those darker areas?
Well, here we see a little bit of bleeding. The darker areas are the areas of the lining that are at the bottom of the normal rugae, because the inside surface of the stomach sort of looks like it's covered with little mountains. And so we can get the redness in between what the rugae in the stomach, and there's a little bit of increased redness here, but no ulceration.
Do you have an opinion, or were you able to form an opinion as to what the increased redness might be or is associated with?
Yes.
Cystate.
Did you note anything of significance in the rest of your examination of the file, the autopsy file, the medical examiner's file, that was related to what you see in the photograph 164?
Yes.
All right, I see its eyebrow for just a minute here.
We can take that down.
Okay, so if you've been following this case closely, you know that this doctor has just given an opinion that is contrary to the Commonwealth's expert opinion on John O'Keefe's cause of death. Hypothermia was part of the cause of death that the medical examiner working for the Commonwealth opined about in her testimony because he was out in the freezing cold, according to witness testimony, other forensic and scientific evidence. This opinion is contrary to that. So let's see where else it goes. Let's go back in.
With regard to the, it's my word, not yours, doctor, so forgive me, the defects, the redder marks that you're mentioning on the rugae or in and around the rugae on the gastric mucosa. Did you note that there was a machine that was used for life-saving measures as it related to Mr. O'Keefe?
Oh, yes, it caused some damage to the body.
Okay, let's talk about that for just a quick second. What is that machine called?
It's a mechanical device to administer chest compressions, and the company that makes it is called Lucas, or one of the companies, so it's called a Lucas machine, and it can be attached to the body. Your arms go up over a ridge, and there's a plunger, and it goes around your back, and so it just plunges, and it does mechanical resuscitation and chest compression, compressing the chest right over the lower sternum, about 2 inches or so, and it's very helpful in a situation where the manual compressions, where the attendants and the ERT people, they get tired continually compressing for a long period of time. So the mechanical device was invented to prevent the EMT fatigue when administering chest compressions.
When you mention the sternum area
Yes.
of the body, are there organs beneath the area that's being compressed by the mechanical Lucas machine?
Oh, absolutely.
What do those organs include?
Well, ideally they include the heart because that's what's supposed to be pumping the blood out. But it's also in a circular area that's right below the sternum, which includes the heart. But what is also under there is the esophagus and the interior of the stomach. So this area is right under where the machine is compressing as well, as long as, in addition to part of the head of the pancreas, which is also right there under the lower sternum. And what can happen with the Lucas machine pushing in for 100 times a minute for a depth of about 2 or 2.5 inches, that these organs right underneath of it get compressed between the Lucas pump and the bony vertebral bodies that's along your back. So you have the Lucas machine compressing these organs, and they're compressing them against the vertebral bodies of your bony vertebral column in the back. So you can get other injuries, organ injuries, that is a complication of the automated mechanical resuscitation. You can get cardiac ruptures, you can get ruptures of the liver, because all those organs are clustered right there, and that machine is pushing those organs in between the pump and the back of the bony spinal column.
Doctor, in your review of the medical records, was there any indication that an automated chest compression machine, a Lucas machine, was used on Mr. O'Keefe?
Yes.
May we can take this down?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to hit pause right here as we're coming up on the top of the hour. You'll see more of the doctor's testimony on the other side of the break. We thank you for watching Court TV Live. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Ted Rowlands. Good to be with you on a Tuesday. As we work through this week, we're in Dedham, Massachusetts. The defense could rest as early as today. They still have another witness after Dr. Laposata. So the odds of that happening are probably a little slim. We still have the biochemist from ARCA to take this stand, who we've heard a lot about throughout the defense case. The defense's basic expert claim here, all the experts are saying John O'Keefe did not die from Karen Read's Lexus. Something else happened to him. The Commonwealth totally disagrees. Brennan has been pushing these experts, and that's where we're going to see today. We're going to see 2 more cross-examinations to remember. So let's head back to the courtroom, and Dr. Elizabeth Laposata still on the stand, still direct.
There's 2 documents that I'd like to show you. First,
Yes.
that document, and then after you're finished, familiarize yourself. First one and the second one.
Yes.
Taking the first document that addresses the Lucas machine,
Yes.
how do you recognize that photo or those series of photos and graphs?
These are illustrations I put in my report, and one shows a generic patient with the Lucas machine in place around him to do the chest compressions. Then I have a photograph of the actual apparatus of the Lucas machine itself. Then I show what's recognized as medical complications and injury from that machine. It shows, I have an example of a CAT scan of a section through the body horizontally, right where the plunger goes into the chest. And it shows in another patient hemorrhage around the pancreas and around the top of the stomach. Then I have a diagram also taken from our medical literature that shows the direction of force that compresses those organs between the resuscitation paddle and the vertebral body and the backbone.
Doctor, are those photographs and graphs taken from peer-reviewed literature in the medical field that's normally relied on by other medical professionals?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd move for the admission of that first document.
Right, subject to redaction?
I don't think so. I think that that one is not objected to.
Okay. All right, so would you hand that to...
Sure, thank you.
Exhibit 227.
Permission to display, Your Honor?
Yes.
Doctor, I know that's a little bit small and far away. We'll enlarge it as you need. It's not an eye test. Can you tell me what we're looking at? Yeah, let's take the top half of the document. What is that to the left, and then what's the machine in the middle?
Okay, so what you see on the left is a anonymous patient showing how the Lucas machine is placed onto the patient, where the arms are pulled up and clasped against these rigid mechanical bridges, and then here is the engine which puts the pump, and that's the pump which just goes up and down to do the chest compressions. And so that's how it's affixed to a patient.
To be clear, doctor, that is not Mr. O'Keefe. That is
No, this is
could be a model.
an unknown person.
Okay. And then what are we looking at in terms of the actual machine to the right?
This shows the actual machine before it's put on a patient. You can see how it encircles the patient, and then there is this circular pump, which is the compressor pump.
If we can look at what is that a picture of, the highlighted portion?
That's the circular part that actually is projected down onto the body.
That makes contact with the chest?
Correct, and it has a spring in there that the engine above it gives a certain number of compressions per minute.
And you said on average the compressions per minute would be about what?
They should be around 100.
Okay. If we could go to the bottom half of the page, or the graphics on the bottom. What are we looking at in this photograph?
Okay, we're looking at, on the left side, we're looking at a CAT scan, which scans a person who's had some injury from the Lucas compression machine, and it's a cross section. So the arrow here is pointing to the head of the pancreas and the area of the esophagus, and then the machine would compress down onto that. And the important part is that I don't know if that's working on there. The little thing that looks like at the very bottom, that's circular and then has a little, looks like a little steer head, that's the vertebral column, and that's bone. And so the pump is pushing in that area where the arrow is pushing those organs against the bony vertebral column. Excuse me. And that's on an actual patient that had that. Then on the right, it shows the schematic of the blue arrows indicating the force coming down. Then we see the organs, and the red arrows show how the pancreas can get hemorrhage, and also some of the esophagus that goes into the top part of the stomach. And we see that's, I can't really see where that, I think it stopped.
Oh. May I approach you?
Yes.
Oh, no, you've got it. Okay.
Could be a battery issue.
Okay. And then we see at the bottom with those three little things projecting from it, that is the vertebral body, which is made up of bone. So you can see how the chest compressions, not only hoping to save the life by keeping the heart blood functioning, can also cause some injuries and damage, not life-threatening usually, to the other organs there.
We can take that down. Doctor, taking a look at the second document that's in front of you, do you recognize what's depicted in that document?
Yes.
What is that?
This is a picture of Mr. O'Keefe's chest while he's at the hospital, which shows a lot of the resuscitation equipment.
Is that a true and accurate depiction of the of Mr. O'Keefe at the hospital based on your review of the medical file?
Yes.
I'll move for the admission of that.
Okay.
Oh.
Exhibit 228.
Done.
Permission to display briefly.
Okay.
Taking a look at the photographs to the left and to the right, do you see any indication on Mr. O'Keefe's body that is suggestive that the Lucas machine, where the Lucas machine was situated?
Yes, as I've pointed out here with the blue arrows, that big circular mark there is the mark on the skin where the compression pump compressed the chest of Mr. O'Keefe, and it caused some rib fractures, and it also caused those reddening of the stomach and some hemorrhage in the pancreas.
We can take that down. Doctor, based on your review of the medical records, did you calculate the approximate number of compressions that Mr. O'Keefe would have been subject to based on that Lucas machine?
Yes.
What is that calculation?
His body was found around 6 in the morning, and he got to the hospital around 6:37, I think. So if they put the Lucas machine on him when they got him into the ambulance, and it's compressing at 100 times a minute, and that is from the time of the body being discovered to the time at the hospital, that's around 37 minutes. So if you multiply 37 minutes times 100 compressions a minute, that's around, over 30,000 compressions that would have been done to Mr. O'Keefe's body in the course of his resuscitation efforts.
Doctor, do you have an opinion as to what caused the hemorrhaging that we saw on Mr. O'Keefe's stomach lining?
Yes.
What is that opinion?
It was from the blunt compression of the Lucas machine.
Is that opinion to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty?
Yes.
You indicated earlier that there is a difference between someone dying of hypothermia or complications associated with hypothermia and a body that's already passed away just cooling, correct?
Correct.
Do you have an opinion as to a reasonable degree of medical certainty as to whether Mr. O'Keefe suffered from hypothermia?
I do have an opinion.
What is that opinion?
He did not experience hypothermia.
Did you observe any signs of frostbite?
No.
Did that have any weight concerning your opinion, overall opinion, as to whether or not Mr. O'Keefe died with complications associated with hypothermia?
Well, if someone dies due to exposure to low temperatures, you expect to see not only the Wishnooki ulcers, but you expect to see some frostbite changes in the extremities.
Based on your overall review of the medical records associated with Mr. O'Keefe, were you able to reach an opinion and conclusion as to the cause of death of Mr. O'Keefe?
Yes.
What is that opinion?
He died of brain injuries and skull fractures due to blunt force trauma of the head.
Do you hold that opinion for Mr. O'Keefe's cause of death to a reasonable degree of medical certainty?
Yes.